You've been earning points for years. Every grocery run, every flight, every random Tuesday Amazon purchase. You swipe, you earn, you redeem. And somewhere along the way, you started to feel like you were beating the system. You're not. In fact, the system was designed specifically for people who think exactly that. And today I'm going to show you the math that proves it. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about credit card rewards. They were never designed to give you money. They were designed to make you spend more of it. And the difference between those two things is costing the average American over $1,000 a year. To understand why this system exists, you have to go back to 1981. American Airlines was bleeding money. Deregulation had just hit the airline industry. Competition was brutal, and every carrier was essentially in a race to the bottom on ticket prices. American needed a way to lock customers in without cutting prices further. So they invented something called AAdvantage, the world's first frequent flyer program. The concept was simple. Fly with us, we'll track your miles, and eventually we'll give you a free flight. It worked immediately. Within 3 years, every major airline had a copy. And within a decade, banks had figured out they could do the same thing. Except instead of miles for flying, you'd earn points for spending. Here's what American Airlines understood that their customers didn't. A mile promised in the future costs almost nothing to issue today. You're not handing someone a free seat. You're issuing a liability that only becomes real if and when that person actually redeems it. And most people don't redeem at full value. Many don't redeem at all. The airline industry has a term for this. They call it breakage. Breakage is the percentage of rewards that are earned but never redeemed. It ranges between 15 and 30% depending on the program. That's free money, earned by the company, from people who thought they were earning it themselves. The bank saw this and built an entire industry on top of it. And that industry, 40 years later, is one of the most profitable businesses in American finance. Now let's follow the money. Every time you swipe a credit card, something happens that most people have never thought about. The merchant, the store, the restaurant, the gas station pays a fee. That fee is called the interchange rate. And on a premium rewards card, that fee is typically between 2 and 3% of the transaction. So when you spend $100 at a restaurant, the restaurant actually receives somewhere between $97 and $98. The rest goes to Visa or Mastercard as a network fee and to your bank as interchange revenue. Your bank takes that interchange, keeps most of it, and hands you back a small piece as points, miles, or cashback. On a typical card, you're getting back about 1 to 1.5% of what you spent. The bank is keeping the other half. So the rewards aren't coming out of the bank's pocket. They're coming out of the merchant's pocket. The merchant who just served you food, or sold you gas, or stocked your groceries. And merchants can't just absorb that cost silently. So they raise prices. Across the board. For everyone. Including people who don't have a rewards card. Including people who pay in cash. The Federal Reserve Bank of Boston ran a study specifically on this. Their conclusion was stark. The rewards system transfers roughly $1,282 per year from low-income households to high-income ones. Because low-income households are statistically more likely to use cash or basic debit cards, and high-income households are far more likely to carry premium rewards cards with high interchange rates. So when a cashier rings up 2 customers buying the same groceries, one with a Chase Sapphire Reserve and one with a debit card, they both pay the same price. But only one of them gets 3% back, and the other one is partially funding that reward. The program isn't a perk. It's a redistribution mechanism, and it's been running quietly for 40 years. Now here's the part that very few people ever look at. Visa and Mastercard are not banks. They don't issue your credit card. They don't set your interest rate. They don't manage your account. What they do is operate the rails, the network, the infrastructure that processes every transaction every time you tap your card anywhere on Earth. And because of that position, they sit in the middle of every single credit card transaction in America, taking a small cut of every one. Visa processed over $12 trillion in transactions in 2023. Mastercard processed nearly $9 trillion. They are the most profitable companies in financial services, not by lending money or taking risk, but by being the unavoidable infrastructure that money moves through. And the rewards program is what keeps that infrastructure dominant. Because here's the problem Visa and Mastercard had before rewards existed. Why would merchants accept cards if they could just take cash for free? And why would consumers use cards if cash worked everywhere? Rewards solved both problems at once. The program incentivized consumers to prefer cards. Consumer preference forced merchants to accept cards. And merchant acceptance reinforced consumer preference. A perfect loop, built not for your benefit, built to make the rails unavoidable. Okay, let's get to the actual math, because this is where it falls apart. Meet Sarah. Sarah is disciplined. Sarah pays her balance in full every single month. She earns 2% back on everything. She spends $4,000 a month on the card. That's $48,000 a year. At 2% back, Sarah earns $960 in rewards annually. That sounds good, until you look at what $960 actually means when you go to use it. Because here's what the data shows about how people actually redeem points. The average redemption value on a points-based rewards card is between 0.8 and 1.2 cents per point. Airlines and hotels advertise 2 cents per point. But that rate requires booking specific flights, specific seats, specific travel windows, navigating blackout dates, managing point transfers between programs, and hitting redemption minimums before points expire. In 2022, Delta Airlines devalued their SkyMiles program. American Airlines restructured AAdvantage. United changed Mileage Plus redemption charts. All three in the same year. All making redemptions worth less than they were the year before. You earn those miles at one value. You're spending them at another. And you have zero say in when that changes. Most people skip the complexity and redeem for gift cards, statement credits, or merchandise. Those redemptions routinely come in at 0.7 to 0.9 cents per point. So Sarah's $960 in theoretical rewards value is probably closer to $750. Maybe $700 after realistic redemption. Then subtract the annual fee. The average annual fee on a premium rewards card is $95. The Amex Gold is $250. The Chase Sapphire Reserve is $550. The Amex Platinum is $695. The banks advertise these cards with lists of credits and perks that technically offset the fee. The Amex Platinum offers $200 in hotel credits, $200 in airline fee credits, $100 global entry credit, Equinox gym credit, Saks Fifth Avenue credit. But here's the thing about those credits. They only work if you were already planning to spend that money at those specific merchants at those specific times. If you're buying a gym membership you didn't want to justify a $695 annual fee, you're not winning. You're buying a gym membership you didn't want. Strip away the credits you actually use, subtract the annual fee, apply realistic redemption rates, and Sarah's $960 is looking more like $300 to $400 net. On $48,000 in annual spending. That is less than 1%. You are working harder, tracking more, managing more, thinking about your purchases more for a sub 1% return. A high-yield savings account pays more than that with zero effort. But none of that is even the main cost. The main cost is what the card does to your spending behavior. And this is the part the banks have known since the beginning. This is the entire premise. Dražen Prelec is a professor of management science at MIT. He studies the psychology of payment. And in one of his most cited experiments, he and his colleagues ran an auction for sold-out sporting event tickets. Half the participants were told they could only bid using cash. The other half were told they could only bid using credit cards. The credit card group bid, on average, twice as much. Twice. For the exact same tickets. In the exact same auction. The only variable was the payment method. Because cash is physical. Handing over a $20 bill activates what psychologists call the pain of paying. You feel the loss in real time. Your brain registers a transaction as painful when money literally leaves your hands. But swiping a card disconnects the spending from the feeling. The transaction happens, but the pain is deferred. And deferred pain is pain you stop accounting for. Now layer the rewards program on top of that. When you swipe a rewards card, you're not just avoiding the pain of paying. You're actively framing the transaction as an accumulation. You're not spending money on dinner. You're earning points on dinner. That psychological reframe changes everything. A 2016 study in the Journal of Consumer Research found that rewards card users don't just spend more per transaction. They're significantly less likely to notice price increases. They evaluate purchases less critically. And they're more likely to upgrade, to choose the more expensive option, the bigger size, the added feature, Because the marginal cost feels softened by the reward it generates. The card isn't rewarding your spending. It is generating your spending. And the banks have the data to prove it, which is why they keep running the programs. Here's a layer most people never think about. Every time you swipe that rewards card, you're not just paying for your groceries. You're handing your bank a detailed transaction record. What you bought, where you bought it, what time, how often, every category, every merchant, every week of the year. Your rewards card is one of the most comprehensive behavioral data collection tools ever built. And that data is extraordinarily valuable. Banks sell anonymized spending data to advertisers, researchers, hedge funds, and market intelligence firms. Hedge funds use credit card transaction data to forecast corporate earnings before they're reported. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry. You are the product. The rewards are the price the bank pays to make sure you keep swiping. Now let's talk about the specific mechanisms. Because the rewards program isn't just one trap. It's several traps stacked inside each other. The first is the sign-up bonus. Spend $3,000 in the first 3 months. Earn 60,000 points. Worth, allegedly, $600. Sounds simple, but $3,000 in 3 months is $1,000 a month in mandatory spending. If you were already spending that, fine. If you weren't, and most people applying for a new card weren't, you just gave yourself a spending target. And spending targets change behavior. Suddenly you're buying things in January that you would have bought in April. Suddenly you're accelerating purchases, prepaying subscriptions, stocking up on things you don't need yet, all to hit a number. The bonus isn't free points. It's an advance on your future spending, with interest if you carry the balance. The second trap is the category multiplier. 5 times points at restaurants, 3 times points on travel, 2 times at grocery stores. This sounds like a bonus, but what it actually is a behavioral menu. A menu that tells you where to spend to maximize your return. And once you're optimizing for category points, you've stopped making spending decisions based on what you need. You're making them based on what earns the most. You might drive further for a restaurant that's in the dining category. You might book through the bank's travel portal, which sometimes costs more, to earn triple points. You are now working for the points. The points are not working for you. The third trap is the rotating category card. Every quarter, the bonus categories change. 5% back on gas this quarter. 5% on groceries next quarter. To earn the bonus, you have to activate it manually every 3 months. This design is not accidental. The activation requirement exists because it requires you to re-engage with the program every quarter. To log in, to check, to think about the card, to stay in the rewards mindset. Because the moment you stop thinking about the card, you stop optimizing for it. And the moment you stop optimizing for it, you might start asking whether it's worth it. They can't have that. The fourth trap is points expiration. Points expire. Categories shift. Redemption charts get rewritten. You spent 3 years building up 80,000 airline miles for a business class flight to Europe. The airline changes the chart. That same flight now costs 110,000 miles. You don't have enough. You either top up with a purchase or redeem for something worse. The bank controls the exchange rate. The bank changes it whenever the math stops working in their favor. You agreed to this in a 47-page terms and conditions document you did not read. Now we get to the part that makes everything else irrelevant. The top 3 credit card issuers in the United States, JP Morgan Chase, Citibank, and Bank of America, generated a combined $130 billion in revenue in 2023. Rewards programs cost money to run. The banks know that. They run them anyway. Why would a bank spend billions of dollars handing consumers cash back in miles if those programs weren't generating more revenue than they cost? The answer is not complicated. Rewards cards carry higher interest rates than non-rewards cards. The average APR on a premium rewards card is between 22 and 27%. Non-rewards cards typically run 3 to 5 points lower. And the average American carries a credit card balance. The most recent Federal Reserve data puts the average balance at around $5,700. At 25% APR, that balance costs $1,400 in interest every year. The cashback on the spending that created that balance? Maybe $200. Net result on the year, negative $1,200. The bank made $1,400 in interest. It paid out $200 in rewards. Net profit per customer, $1,200. And here's the trap within the trap. The rewards program makes you more likely to carry a balance. Not because you're irresponsible, because the program softened the psychological cost of spending, because you bought things you didn't plan to buy when you were chasing a bonus, because the deferred pain of swiping a card is real and it adds up quietly. You are not a customer. You are a revenue model. The rewards are the recruitment bonus for joining it. In 2003, Australia decided to look at this system. Their central bank, the Reserve Bank of Australia, looked at interchange rates, looked at the impact on merchants, looked at what rewards programs were actually doing to consumer behavior, and concluded that the system was inefficient and regressive. So they capped interchange fees. Dramatically, they cut them by roughly 50%. And within a year, something predictable happened. The banks responded by cutting the rewards. Sharply, sign-up bonuses disappeared. Points values dropped. Premium tier cards became harder to justify. And something else happened too. Merchant prices, for the first time in years, stopped rising as fast. Because the subsidy the merchants had been paying into the reward system was suddenly smaller. The conclusion from economists studying the Australian intervention was clear. The rewards weren't free. They were paid for by merchants, passed to consumers as higher prices, and returned to a subset of consumers as rewards. It was a circular transfer, with the banks taking a cut at every step. The United States looked at the Australian data. The banking lobby spent hundreds of millions of dollars making sure nothing similar happened here. Let's be completely honest about who wins this game. Visa and Mastercard win. Every transaction. Tiny cut. At scale, it's worth trillions. Banks win. Interchange revenue. Interest revenue. Data revenue. Annual fees. Airlines and hotels win. They sell miles to banks at roughly half a cent each. They redeem them at 1 to 2 cents when you use them, or they expire unused. Either way, the airline collects cash from the bank and gives away empty seats. You win, specifically and narrowly, if you pay your balance in full every single month, without exception. You spend enough to justify the annual fee. You actually redeem points at or above 1.5 cents per point. You never make a purchase to hit a bonus threshold. You never choose a more expensive option to earn more points. Your overall spending hasn't increased since you got the card. That is a very specific, very narrow set of conditions. And if you honestly run through that list, and all 6 are true, then yes, you're winning. If even one of them is sometimes false, the system is winning, not you. Here's the final thing I want you to sit with. The rewards program was not designed by accident. It was designed by some of the best behavioral economists and marketing psychologists in the world. People whose entire job was to build a system that felt like a gift and functioned like a revenue engine. They gave you a premium-looking card with your name embossed on it. They gave you access to airport lounges and concierge services. They gave you a status tier with a name, gold, platinum, sapphire, diamond. And they made sure that every time you pulled that card out of your wallet, you felt like you were winning. That feeling is the product. The points are just the delivery mechanism. Because the most profitable customer is not the one who feels exploited. The most profitable customer is the one who feels rewarded. So what do you actually do with this? If you are genuinely paying your balance in full every month, not almost every month, and you have done the math on your actual net rewards after fees and redemption rates, and the number is positive, then keep the card. Run the system. But if there's a balance, if there's a month where life happened and you carried it forward, if you've ever spent more to hit a category bonus, if you've ever felt that faint pull toward a purchase because of the points it would earn, then you are not running the system. The system is running you. And that's the thing about a trap that was designed by professionals. It doesn't look like a trap. It looks like a perk. It feels like a reward. It feels like you finally found the cheat code. You didn't find the cheat code. You are the cheat code for them. If you want to understand how the other systems work, gym memberships, phone upgrade cycles, Amazon Prime, landlord deposit tricks, subscribe. Because there's an entire architecture built around the same principle. And traditional media is not going to explain it to you, because the companies running these systems are also the ones buying the ads. The real story is never the one being advertised.